Hey, AP people, welcome back for document of the day number 6. Today's selection is a speech delivered by Teddy Roosevelt in late 1910. Some other really great speeches are given by Roosevelt in this year, probably most notably the Man in the Arena speech delivered in Paris. Roosevelt is deep in the throes of campaigning for 1912 already by 1910. So the New Nationalism speech and the Man in the Arena speech all really relate to his attempt to be elected in his own right. So this particular selection is often called the New Nationalism speech. Just for context, after the Civil War has settled the major problem of slavery, the nation next has to grapple with the problems of mass industrializing. So monopolies and trusts, slums, labor conflicts, everything that comes with transitioning to that sort of industrial economy. Roosevelt spends time in the speech praising the accomplishments of the Grand Army of the Republic while calling for some really well-structured reforms to preserve and strengthen the ideal of democracy that they're defending in the Civil War. So this speech lays out some of the planks of Roosevelt's 1912 election bid, including that idea of a square deal that we always associate with Teddy Roosevelt, that plan for the average hardworking American. And for Roosevelt, that means, at least in part, that the federal government should play a role in defending human rights in favor of property rights and limiting labor exploitation of the common man. So this is definitely a progressive platform, and you can hear some of that language in the selection I'm about to read for you. This is a rather lengthy speech, but if you have the time, definitely a good one. It says, I stand for the square deal. But when I say that I am for the square deal, I mean not merely that I stand for fair play under the present rules of the game, but that I stand for having those rules changed so as to work for a more substantial equality of opportunity and of reward for equally good service. One word of warning, which I think is hardly necessary in Kansas. When I say I want a square deal for the poor man, I do not mean that I want a square deal for the man who remains poor because he has not got the energy to work for himself. If a man who has had the chance will not make good, then he has got to quit. And you men of the Grand Army, you want justice for the brave man who fought, and punishment for the coward who shirked his work. Is that not so? Now, this means that our government, national and state, must be freed from the sinister influence or control of special interests. Exactly as the special interests of cotton and slavery threatened our political integrity before the Civil War, so now the great special business interests too often control and corrupt the men and methods of government for their own profit. We must drive the special interests out of politics. That is one of our tasks today. Every special interest is entitled to justice, full, fair, and complete. And now, mind you, if there were any attempt by mob violence to plunder and work harm to the special interests, whatever it may be, that I most dislike. And the wealthy man, whomsoever he may be, for whom I have the greatest contempt, I would fight for him, and you would, if you were worth your salt. He should have justice, for every special interest is entitled to justice, but not one is entitled to a vote in Congress, to a voice on the bench, or to representation in any public office. The Constitution guarantees protection to property, and we must make that promise good, but it does not give the right of suffrage to any corporation. The true friend of property, the true conservative, is he who insists that property shall be the servant and not the master of the commonwealth, who insists that the creature of man's making shall be the servant and not the master of the man who made it. The citizens of the United States must effectively control the mighty commercial forces which they have called into being. There can be no effective control of corporations while their political activity remains. To put an end to it will be neither a short nor an easy task, but it can be done. Throughout the rest of the speech, Roosevelt lays out a little more specifically what his vision of that control would look like, and he really kind of firmly believes that there should be a place for the federal government in overseeing business, not just strictly the courts, and not just state or local organizations like the Grange. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll catch you later.